Radha Krishna. Welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is the government. So, you must have heard the word government mentioned several times. In today's video, we will learn about what a government is and the important role it plays in our lives. Keep watching and find out more. Every country needs a government. The government makes decisions and gets things done. These can be decisions about where to build roads and schools and how to reduce the price of onions when they get too expensive in ways. I know it's a bit pathetic, onions out of everything in the world. So where to build roads and schools, and the government is also responsible for many social issues. For example, it has many programs to help the poor. The government is also responsible for running postal and railway services. It is also responsible for protecting the boundaries of a country, at the same time maintaining peaceful relationships with other neighboring countries. When there are floods and tsunamis and other natural disasters, it is the government that mainly organizes aid and assistance for the affected people. It is the government's duty to make sure that all its citizens have enough food to eat and have good health facilities. And when there is a dispute or if someone has committed a crime, we find people in a court. Courts are also part of the government. So now that you know the government is responsible for so many things, you must be wondering, or are you, how does the government manage to do all these things and why is it necessary for it to do so? Well, when human beings live and work together, there needs to be some amount of organization so that decisions can be done and other things can be made, and some rules and regulations need to be made for everyone to follow, for the whole country to follow. For example, there is a need to limit the resources in our country, and there is a need to protect the boundaries of a country so that people can feel safe and secure in the country. It is the government's job to do all this for all the people in their country. So moving on, how does the government manage to do all this? Well, the government is not just one. It works at many levels, at the local level, at the level of the state and the national level. The local level is in your particular village, town, locality, and the national level would mean the state level would mean at the level of the state, like a whole state like Haryana or Assam, and the national level would mean like a whole country like India, China or Pakistan. So the government is not just one, it works in many levels. And the government makes many laws and regulations, and everyone in the country has to follow these. But just like the government has the power to make laws, it also has the power to enforce its decisions. For example, there is a law saying that all people driving a motor vehicle must have a license. So, if a person is caught driving a motor vehicle without a license, they can be either jailed or fined a large sum of money. Without these laws, the government's power of making decisions is not of much use. Besides the government's power, there are steps people can take if they feel that a particular law is not being followed. For example, if a person feels they were not hired to a job because of their religion or caste, they have all the rights to approach the court and claim that the law is not being followed. Then the court can give orders on what should be done and what should not be done. So, who gives the government this power to make decisions and as well as enforce laws? The answer to this question depends on what kind of government there is in a country. In a democracy, for example, it is people who give the government this power to make decisions and enforce laws. In a democracy, the government has to defend its decisions to the people. In a democracy, people elect their leaders. They elect their leaders through an election process, and these elected people then form the government. So the government, a democratic government, has to explain its decisions and defend the actions it takes to the people, the citizens. And as well as in a monarchy, the monarchy is a bit different from the democracy. In a monarchy, in a monarch government, the monarch, king or queen, runs the entire kingdom definitely, and they have power over the government, and they may have a few people to discuss matters with, but the final decision making powers remains with the monarch, king or queen himself or herself. So unlike in a democracy, kings and queens do not have to explain or defend the decisions they take or the actions they take, because it's a monarchy. So India is a democracy. This is the result of a long and eventful struggle of the Indian citizens. There are other places in the world where people have also struggled to have democracies. Africa, for example, but that's a topic for another time. So back to democratic governments. So India is a democracy. This is the result of a long and eventful struggle of the Indian citizens. There are other places in the world where people have also struggled for democracy. So in a democratic government, the main thing in a democratic government is that the people have the power to elect their leaders. So the people also have the power to elect their leaders, which kind of minimizes the government's power to make whatever they do and not do something unfairly and unjustly. So in these days, a government cannot call itself democratic unless it allows what is today known as universal adult franchise. Universal adult franchise is known as, it means that all adults should have the right to vote. It was not always this democratic. Governments were not always this democratic. In the olden days, they did not allow the women or the propertyless or the uneducated and the poor, they didn't allow them to vote. Several people were shocked at this unfairness. The country, literally the country was ruled on the few laws and regulations that these few men made. Several people, including Gandhiji, were shocked at this unfairness. Writing in the Journal of Young India in 1931, Gandhiji said, "I cannot possibly bear the idea that a man who has got wealth but no character should have the vote, but that a man who has got character but no wealth or literature should not have the vote, or that a man who works honestly by the sweat of his brow day in and day out should not have the vote for the crime of being a poor man." Oh my gosh, that does sound really unfair. But I've done a whole video on unfairness, so if you want to, just go check that out. Today's topic is the government, so let's just focus on that. Right, speaking of the elections, why do we have regular elections? Through voting in elections, people elect their leaders and But this government is not, permanent. Governments can only rule the country for a fixed period of time, and then the elections take place again. In India, this period is 5 years. So the governments in India can only rule it for 5 years, and then the elections take place again. And this is the moment when people feel their power in a democracy rising. So the government's power to make decisions gets a bit minimized, or whatever you want to call it, by regular elections. And there are other ways of participating in a government or a democratic government other than just simply voting. For example, we can observe the government and take an interest in how it is running the country and criticizing it when required. For example, in August 2005, when a particular government increased the money people had to pay for electricity, people expressed their disapproval very sharply. So they expressed their disapproval very sharply. They held dharnas and rallies, tried to make the government understand what they should do, what they should not do, and the government, as usual, tried to explain and defend its decision, but finally it listened to the people, for heaven's sake, and withdrew the increase. It did this because the government is responsible to the people and its citizens. There are many ways of making the governments understand what they should do and what they should not do. For example, dharnas, there are dharnas, rallies, strikes, and even signature campaigns, etc. So many people do this, and unfairnesses and injusticeness by the government is also brought forward if there are any. And TVs, newspapers, magazines also play an important role in discussing the government's issues and responsibilities, what it should be doing, what it should not be doing, and all that, right? So, where were we? Right. In a democratic government, people are obviously allowed to vote, but not all people were always allowed to vote, as I just mentioned before earlier. And in this case, people organize social movements. Dalits, women, Adivasis, they all sense their power in a democracy then, and they all can express themselves in a democracy this way as well. So this way we can understand the government, and next time we see a rally winding up our streets in our town, city, locality, or wherever, we should pause and ask them what the whole thing is about, which people are participating in it, what are they protesting against, and what are they doing. This, I don't know if you will join in that thing or not, that's your decision, I'm no one to decide that, but doing that will give us a idea on how the government runs the people. That will be more knowledge to us as well. So, moving on, conflicts. We come to the area of conflicts. Conflicts are a bit similar to dharnas and rallies, except that this is between two states and two governments, or whatever you want to call it. So, conflicts occur when people of different states, localities, religions, regions, or economic backgrounds do not get along with each other. Conflicts may occur on several occasions, and when this does occur, there is fear that violence may erupt, and it is the government's duty to ensure that the conflict is settled and the conflict ends at some or the other point, it can't go on forever. So, conflicts may occur because of religious processions or celebrations. For example, the route a procession takes may lead to a conflict. In this case, there is also some fear that violence may erupt. The government, mainly the police, is responsible for ensuring that violence does not erupt, and it is also responsible for calling the particular authorities that are needed, and they try to arrive at a solution and end the whole thing at some or the other point. Conflicts may also occur because of rivers. Rivers that go through different countries, start at one country, flow through the other, end in the third. Rivers like these are becoming a source of conflict. Sharing this river water is mainly the reason. For example, you may have heard of the Cauvery water dispute between Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. So here this river flows through those two states, and this is becoming a source of a conflict. The water stored in the Krishna Rajasagar Dam in Karnataka this water is used for irrigating many districts, and it's used for the needs of the city of Bengaluru. While in Tamil Nadu, in the Meituri Dam, water stored in the Meituri Dam is used for crops that grow in the delta region of the country. So the problem here is that the downstream dam in Tamil Nadu, wait a second, did I just call Tamil Nadu a country? Okay, maybe I did, but that's the state mark here, so let's just move on. Right. So the problem here is that the downstream dam in Tamil Nadu can only be filled if water is released from the upstream one that is located in Karnataka. So this way both dams, both states do not have enough water for their citizens and people and whatever construction they're doing and stuff. So then in this case, both the governments are obviously having a huge war. So the central government steps in, stops the whole thing, and tries to arrive at a solution and tries to see that a fair distribution is worked out for both states. So conflicts may occur at any point, any time, out of thin air probably. And before many years probably, the practice of untouchability that happened many years ago is now banned by law. It is finally banned by law because many people like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar realized that these kinds of practices must not go on if people want justice and equality. Justice can only be achieved when all people are treated equally. So when the constitution was written, this untouchability was finally officially banned by law. Equality, this is because equality and justice are inseparable. Whether they are separated at one point, if equality is separated from justice, justice does not happen, and if justice is separated from equality, equality does not happen. So these two are best buds, are inseparable, whatever you want to call it. And these two are inseparable. So we finally have equality, though that problem still lasts in this day. Today's topic is government, so I guess we're done with the topic. I guess that's it for today. Until next time, I'm Aradhya. I'll see you in the next video.